This podcast is brought to you by Rise Make Life Workout, a health and self-development platform dedicated to helping busy, everyday Kiwis manage their physical health and upskill their mental well-being.
Through sharing relatable and practical content from health practitioners, as well as showcasing interesting stories from interesting people.
For more shows, content, events, and coaching, head to our website, www.rise-workout.com. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the High Frequency Club podcast. My name is Marwan Salario.
And I'm Sinead Bierman. We're here talking all things self-development, growth, and mindset.
In this week's episode, we welcome back Chad Milnes, co-founder of the Foundry Boxing Club, ex-Commonwealth boxing athlete, and he's a new father to Charlie. It's always an interesting conversation when someone has committed so much of their identity and their time towards a certain something, whether it's a job, a status, and in Chad's situation, it was being a boxer.
Chad also shares how the journey of fatherhood has been so far and the added responsibility this brings to his day-to-day life, as well as some of the realizations he's had of his own upbringing since becoming a father too.
There's a really raw and emotional part in this episode that a lot of men can resonate with when it comes to reflecting on their relationship with their father and how fatherhood has also changed them. So whether you are a fan of boxing, whether you know Chad, whether you are a son yourself, this is a super valuable and emotional episode.
Yes, so be sure to let us know your thoughts once you've had a listen, and make sure you follow and subscribe at the High Frequency Club on all your favorite audio platforms, as well as Instagram and YouTube.
Enjoy the show. So there's going to be people listening, bro, that's not going to know who you may be.
Yeah.
Or some people may just get the little breadcrumbs that they have heard about Chad Milnes, which is champion boxer. You've had over 100
I'm old now, bro. People don't even... I'm washed. Bro, my time was almost 10 years ago when I was sort of...
Really?
You know, like my kind of era of being a somebody was sort of like, 2012 till like 2016?
Yeah.
Which is a while ago now, you know, like there's a whole new generation and another generation that's coming through since me. So, well, I guess I wonder what people's thoughts of me are. Probably start to carry on now into just being the coach that had some fights.
Yeah.
There's probably more my...
Well, that's a very modest view of some fights, because like I said, you've had 101 fights. You went to the Commonwealth Games, right? And you've been a business owner and a gym owner for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
And as you've said, you're a new father. Yeah. So for people who don't know who you are and don't know your story, what can you tell us to help us understand the person they're listening to today?
How did I get here?
Yeah, how'd you get here? Where did it all start?
It's a hard one to answer, I guess. Like when you're a kid, it's all a bunch of things happening. You don't really know why. They just are, I guess. Don't understand your motivations or why you're drawn to certain things. But I guess what started boxing was, prior to that, I was a chubby kid. Same old story as many others. I wasn't very good at many things. Like, I don't like to talk about saying ADHD stuff, because that becomes used a lot these days, and I don't want to use labels or anything, but I kind of didn't really... I was alright at lots of things, but I wasn't exceptional at anything. Like, I was alright at academics, but I didn't try hard enough to be, you know, at the top. Was kind of like in the middle, maybe even in the bottom, but in the middle, I'd say. I didn't really do sports. I wasn't very confident, but when I tried my hand at them, I wasn't too bad. Like, I kind of had a little bit. If I applied myself, I probably could have done better in hindsight, thinking about it, but I never did, because I wasn't very confident at much. And then just one day, mates were walking past a boxing gym that was on the way home from school. They wanted to go, and we went there, and there was my first coach came out the door. He was a big, tatted up ex-gang member, and he said, you know, come on, turn up. So my mates were all going, so I didn't want to miss out. I wanted to, I was like, I'm going to do what my mates do. Went there, I didn't enjoy it at all, so far out of my comfort zone. But prior to that, I just played video games and just waited for the bell to ring to go home and do that. And it was hard, but they went back a little bit more, so I went with them again. And then I did a couple things on the bag, and someone said, good job. Oh, that's good. That's good. So I think that's probably, thinking about it with all the sort of awareness of why we do things and motivation, I was like, that's probably why I keep going back, because it was like, oh, good job. That's good. You got a good left hook. Oh, I got a bit of that reward or that validation, I get, whatever
that
the word is.
you were good at something.
Yeah,
or maybe the first time in your life.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, someone, and that guy, he understood people. I guess probably from his background, he understood people, and he just gave me a pat on the back, and he just believed in me. And I think that's just what kept me coming back, because it was so far out of my comfort zone. Like, I was a pretty soft kid. I got bullied a bit through school, and I didn't like confrontation or being physical or anything like that. So it was just completely like a U-turn to who I was and what I'd done. But I think it was just that. It was just belief and just the good on you, you're doing good, keep going, well done. That kept me coming back, and I just think I craved that, and that continuously it just kept going. And I'd have a goal, and I became obsessed. Like, I was obsessed. My school wasn't that good, but I got way worse. Like, my education. I think in sixth form, there's two numbers that come to my head. 8 or 14 credits the whole year. Because I didn't give a fuck. I wasn't interested. I just was obsessed with boxing. Going to training, watching it, thinking about it, knowing all the guys' names, and knowing who fought who, and the history. And then I was training hard, and then it was always like, and almost for my whole boxing career there was always something in front of me, like I go to have this fight, okay, there's this tournament, okay, nationals, didn't get it, all right, golden gloves, didn't get it, nationals, got it, golden gloves, got it, nationals, got it, Oceanas, didn't get it. There was always something in front of me for that whole 10 years. There was never a moment of like being idle. So but then I was winning. So then, I started losing at the start, but the wins and the encouragement kept me going until after a few years, I just was winning and I didn't lose in New Zealand for 5 years. But then I started to get the international fights, and I, won an Oceania title and things like that. So it was kind of like, as soon as, in 2017, as soon as there was, I didn't get to go to the Commonwealth Games again. I struggled with my weight, and I couldn't make the weight anymore, and for reasons I couldn't contest or try and take the spot to go. And that was the first time where I didn't have something in front of me. And that's when I kind of finished. And then I became a bit lost, which is quite common, and what's quite common with lots of boxers. And this is actually probably something, is boxers do their boxing, they have their career. And I know of some people that have gone through this or are going through this. They get to the end of their career, and they look back at boxing and go, they get resentful. Because I got resentful. I was like, whoa, I put in all this time. I came out of boxing, and the only job I could get was being a gym instructor at Les Mills on barely minimum wage. Barely more than minimum wage. So I got a bit resentful of boxing. And I guess pretty lucky for me is I found a mentor. I met Mark Michaels. And I owe that guy a lot, man. I owe that guy heaps. And as do a lot of us. I met up with Dan Ridgely, True Hustle Dan Ridgely, yesterday, and we just have coffee. We have coffee every Tuesday, and we talked about it. I was like, man, that guy changed our lives. Like, without that guy, we'd just be lost sort of guys in our 20s looking for something, but if you don't have something, you turn to other things, right? So
yeah,
I owe that guy a lot. But met him. Mark just sort of said, want better, try be better, want more for yourself. So it was always a journey of improvement and things like that. I was at Les Mills for a while, but he took me under his wing. He was the gym floor manager, and he ran HPU.
The CrossFit gym.
Yeah, the CrossFit gym, and he'd done lots. Quite entrepreneurial guy, and I liked that. I liked the idea of that. So
I just want to go back to when you were in peak performance for competitive boxing. During that 10 years, what was the hardest part of that? So things you were winning, validation after validation, title after title, opportunity after opportunity. What was the hardest part of that entire process?
I've thought about this before, and like lots of people kind of look at fighters and they say this, and I don't know, you can tell me if you think this is, oh man, I don't know how you're so disciplined, I don't know how you're so committed, how do you do all that? And like, I've thought about it, and I go, you know what, It wasn't hard at all. At all. It wasn't hard.
this.
It wasn't hard.
Yeah.
You know what was hard? It was handing in my assignment that I was due on, next week. It was cleaning my room and washing my clothes. Mum, I didn't really do it, to be fair. Mum did it. But, when I had to, it was that stuff. That was hard. Having to, go and do a job, that was hard. The training stuff was easy because that's what I loved. I loved that. It was fun.
Yeah, and I think that, and I say it quite often, is that the most disciplined people are actually just people having a lot of fucking fun.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, it is.
And when you ask them how did you get so disciplined, a lot of them say exactly the same thing as you.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing with for me being a personal trainer. Don't get me wrong, there are tough times.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I really enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
So when people were like, "Oh, how can you train so hard or work so long?" I'm like, it really doesn't feel that way for me.
Yeah. I agree with that. I guess what I'm doing now, it doesn't feel like work because I love this. I love almost every part, and I'm learned at this time of my life to love the parts where it doesn't go well. As well. That's it frustrates you, but it's me now. This is living. Wow, I'm stressed. I'm anxious. So.
And it's those times where you're not enjoying those little parts of the overall process that actually builds that character.
Yeah.
Right? What about competitive boxing built your character? So I know you talked about you were just a kid that would go home, play games, wait for the bell. What did you pick up from boxing that is still a big part of your identity now?
I think that obsession is part of me. I've carried that mentality into the way this business. I keep the same mentality. If I'm obsessed, I want this to be successful, and I'll keep when I was boxing, I was thinking about how can I use this tactic, or how do I use this? How do I beat that person? What do I need to do to get better? And I'm kind of thinking about it like this. It's the same mentality. How can we make our guys better? How can we have more reach? How can that's probably a big part of the obsession and the competitiveness. I hate losing, I really do. Quietly, it's probably revealing some of my weaknesses here. But I have a bit of an ego. Dylan at the gym will have a bit of a laugh at me and, oh, fuck, don't do that, Daryl. It'll just be, I'll be training with the guys or with Dill and they'll pick up a 20. I just have to use a 24. Where he does 10, I have to do 12. I've got that in me. And it was when we were training, there's probably something about me that I got the reward from the coaches, is that if we did certain exercises, I'd have to do it a bit faster, or do it a bit better. I think that's something of mine that's carried into what I do now.
Yeah, I met you, bro, when I was 19 years old I'm 32 now. You're the same, right?
It's been a while,
It's been a sweet old while, and you've always been hyper competitive for as long as I've known you. Whether that was touch sparring at the flat or
after a few drinks.
Yeah. But except I always knew, I was like, okay, cool, Chad's had it now. I'm gonna back off. This isn't a game anymore.
That guy.
With that hyper competitiveness of yours, bro, when it came time to actually retiring from boxing, what was that process of we can call it letting go, we can call it quitting. Was that a hard decision to make?
No, it actually wasn't.
And why is that?
I'm probably quite thankful and grateful that it wasn't, because I can see lots of people, the old story of the boxer that can't let go and fights into their late retirement and gets hurt and punchy. I didn't have that. I didn't have to keep doing that to keep my identity. I kind of just I'm probably grateful for Mark, as I found something else to channel my competitiveness. And I guess competitiveness can also be constant growth, right? You just have to be bettering yourself. So I always wanted to bet on myself, get better. And that's probably where Mark really helped me with that, because it was, I'll read these books, or, try and learn this and try and learn that. So I was always I always had something in front of me, I guess, to work towards and get better at. So it was quite easy for me, actually. I never really had that idle, what do I do with myself now? Not for very long anyway. I quickly found something else. So it was quite easy.
But you had something to channel that competitiveness and hunger and obsession into.
Yeah,
I think that's where a lot of athletes do get lost. Otherwise, when they retire, it's that identity crisis of, oh my God, well, I've done this for forever, now what do I do? And how do I get that same, like they think they can't have anything like that again, but they can always find something, like you said, to still allow them to feel strong or feel competitive or whatever it might be that keeps them going.
Yeah, that is its identity. I don't know, I didn't really have a problem with it. I think like once I worked with Mark, I kind of had that identity of like I'm Mark's assistant kind of thing, and that and then there was a bit of a role of like I was kind of like a bit of the boss a little bit on the gym floor, so that probably gave me a bit of an identity that I was pretty happy with at the time, as well as some things to work towards and get better at.
If there's a competitive boxer right now that's listening who has this feeling that it is probably time to hang up the gloves but is struggling to get through that transition, what would you tell them?
That's a really hard one, man. I've been asked that question recently in a similar situation. And I didn't really have a good answer.
What did you need to hear at that time?
It probably happened perfectly. Probably how it went is exactly how I wouldn't change it. It was perfect. I probably did need a time away to sort of dull that need for boxing. And said I had it into something else. And then I had a brief little comeback, which went perfectly too, because I got to tick off a milestone I wanted to reach, which I fell short by, which was get over 100 fights. I got to 99, and then I was like, I got to come back. And then I wanted to go pro, and then I tore my bicep before I had my pro debut. But anyway, it was good because it needed to end, otherwise I would have kept going and I would have been another one of those stories. And I found my way back to boxing. I met Few, Byron Boxing, Few, met him, and he reminded me of my love for boxing. I was like, man, this is what I love. I love this. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. I want to be the coach guy, have the gym, do that. That's what I want to do. So it kind of all worked perfectly, really, for me.
Yeah, well, just hearing your story, I think there are some pivotal points to help anyone transition, and I think the big ones find a mentor and another vehicle for you to channel the traits that made you successful as a boxer, for example. The hyper-competitiveness, the want to improve. You can do all of those things outside of boxing. It's just about finding the right vehicle or another vehicle to do it again with.
Yeah, that's right. To answer that question, it is a hard one to answer, but
because it all fell into place for you. Right? Yeah, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it did.
It just happened rather than this you were seeking. However, you did mention that you were lost.
I was lost.
Yeah. What were you, in hindsight now, what were you looking for and did you find it?
What you mean when I finished boxing I was lost?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I found it again. I found boxing again. You know what? Someone that I know, and one of my clients who's very successful, I was asked him for some advice a while ago. I said, mate, what's some advice you'd give me? And he said, it's pretty cliche, but he just said, just be the best or strive to be the best at what you do, and people will come to you. And I think that's what happened. And that's why I should be here, is because boxing is all I did, and people found me, and things transpired, and here we are, and I'm where I should be. So
describe your relationship with boxing when you felt lost versus your relationship with boxing now.
I was resentful. I was pretty resentful, just because people my age were I was in my mid-20s, and when I looked around, there was lots of people my age that were buying houses and having kids, and I was like, man, I've got $1 more than minimum wage job. That's all I can do, I was like, wow, man, boxing wasted my time. For what, a pat on the back and someone to say you're the man. That's it. So I was pretty resentful of boxing. I said it was a waste of time. And now my relationship with boxing is, I love it. It's who I am. It's probably who I'll always be.
How did you forgive boxing?
I think I just came back to it with Few and saw someone else who had a lot of passion for it. And I guess be reminded of how, he was very grateful to boxing and it's changed his life. And just to be like, boxing is an awesome thing. It just happened.
Yeah.
I just saw that it was a good thing for him, and I was like, you know what, it was a good thing for me too.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be back. I don't know, I didn't really go through that process where I had to have a long look at it. It just kind of happened. It just flowed straight in. There was no resistance or anything. I was like, I love this actually. I'm back. I want to be back. I like this.
Yeah. Well, boxing's definitely better with you in it, bro. With the rise of boxing gyms happening in and around New Zealand, especially in Auckland, feels like there's just heaps and heaps and heaps. How is your boxing gym, the Foundry, different from all the others?
I think the difference is just the people there. It's just like me and Dill and our trainers and our people. Like, does it have to be so different? It's just got to do it well, and the people is what makes it different. And I think it's us. It's our personality always is going to go into the gym and be part of the community, and that's what makes it different. Is our mindsets and personalities that spread to the people in there. I think that's what makes it unique.
Yeah, you're right, because a gym is a gym. At the end of the day, it's all the same equipment, open same amount of hours. It's a culture that is set.
Which is set from who works there and who goes there. So
Yeah.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Describe your culture at the Foundry Boxing Club.
Humour?
Yeah, I did believe
Gathered
that
that by some of the reels.
Your guys' social media game's got to crack up, bro.
Little, but yeah, humour.
Who's doing it?
Me and Mikey, like I got Mikey to help me out a little bit with the stuff because he's really into that. So humour
is a value.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that stuff. It's more like time as well. I really struggle with the time to like learn how to do all those things. But yeah, been doing it with Mikey. Yeah, humour. Like, you know, Dylan, man, he's got dry ass humour, and you know, not to take everything too seriously. And then when it comes to the fighters, there's definitely some humour in there, and then there's a competitive thing of me. I'm like, sometimes I just go, you know what? No more fucking jokes. We're here to win. Train. Yeah.
Because there's two sides to the Foundry too. And people who might not know, it would be good for them to know that there is the fighters side and then there is the community side. But they both translate together, right?
Yeah.
They both cross over.
It's a boxing gym. That's like boxing gyms are everywhere like that, like all over the world. You know, boxing's been around since how long? Gyms are the same. You're always going to have your people that are there to hit the bag and enjoy the training that is boxing, and that, you know, everyday people. And then you're going to have your fighters and your competitive side of boxing. Like, it's the same as every gym.
Bro, actually, now that I think about it, what was also on the rise is everyday people wanting to get into a fight. A corporate fight. Is there any types of people that you think shouldn't be getting into the ring, or you think it's safe enough for everyone to be doing it? Why should people be getting into the ring in the first place?
I mean, people that shouldn't, I think first one is if there's a safety issue, like they have a condition, you know, like some previous head trauma or something like that, but I think that people should. I'm biased, right? But you definitely learn about yourself. You put yourself in a pretty vulnerable place. But you also, I'm sure that most people learn that you're not made of glass. You can handle a lot more. And I think you have a lot more respect for what other people can do to you. You know, like, I've had this chat with David Light, and he's like, you kind of know someone that's had a fight before. So the way that they speak, they're just aware of themselves, and they're aware of, and it typically feel like you are typically a bit more humble when it comes to that, because you're kind of like, whoa, you're always a punch away from getting really hurt, and you know it's not good. So I think people should learn that you're not so fragile, but also that you should just be humble and try not to look to have fights with people and things like that, because you know you are vulnerable at the same time. Like, it's just an awareness of that. I think you just develop an awareness, and you can probably shed some light on that yourself.
Oh, bro, the things that I was trying to hide, my vulnerabilities, came out to play big time when it came to the process of getting into the ring. And I remember my biggest lessons weren't actually in the fight or in sparring. It was the things that were around it. For example, getting geared up to go to sparring, I have never felt that level of anxiety in my life. That I remember my first month, bro, I dreaded going to sparring because I was scared of being hurt, and I realized that I could get hurt and I could be made a fool. But all of those were stories in my own head because the environment that was in actually supported me in my journey. And I remember, bro, thinking, okay, what should I tell Dylan and Chad that I can't make it today? What excuse should I give them? And I was like, they're gonna know. They're gonna know. And I remember clammy hands, pretending to still have a hard face on as I was like wrapping up, and I was like, fuck, today's gonna hurt. But then that goes away after a while, because you start really standing up to your own fears.
Yeah.
You start to get a little bit more comfortable, and then the boys around you and the girls will be like, fuck, good job today. And you're like, okay, I'm not as bad as I think.
Yeah.
You know? And like, man, you've got to improve so much. And like, fuck, actually, I think I can do this. I think I can do this. But a lot of it was just facing my own vulnerabilities and my own inadequacies and the fear.
That's quite deep, man.
Yeah, bro. I knew the reason why I wanted to fight in the first place, because I felt like my life was so comfortable.
Yeah.
And I needed something to get me outside of my comfort zone. And I knew getting ready for a fight would, but I didn't think it would do it that much.
Yeah.
And I knew coming out of that as well, I was like, if I can fully commit and face my fears in sparring, getting ready for that fight, I can do it in business. I can do it in my everyday life too. It showed me another level of commitment, resilience, and intensity.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It is that, like, fear is fear, you know, and you have to be able to overcome that when you have a fight.
Have to, yeah.
Yeah, and you learn, and then like so many people at the end say that, you know, it wasn't as bad as what they thought it was. It was just your mind telling you lies about what it is, and you know you can't do it, and you shouldn't do it, and pushing you away from it. And that's an important thing to take away from boxing, because you're always going to have fears. Everything at work and everyday life, you got two choices: go to it or run away from it. And you have to be able to overcome that, or you're just going to run away from everything
all the time. Yeah.
All the time, man. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something why I think people should have a fight as well, you know.
The real gold is in the process of getting up to it.
Yeah, being able to just say, shut up, I'm telling your mind to shut up, and you're just doing it.
Yeah,
you know, just
overriding those old programs.
Yeah,
You're
overriding
forced to
it.
override those
Absolutely,
programs.
yeah.
Or you still stay the same person, which was not the reason why I wanted to do it.
And I'm sure that when you did it, there's a bit of shame in it too. You're not happy with yourself when you turn away from that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I thought you meant the shame when I got beaten up every single day for a whole month.
That being said, like, there's that part too. You got to be able to take the knock and be able to pick yourself up and keep going. It's another lesson. It's important. You have to be able to do that.
Yeah, I remember now in hindsight. You've read Atomic Habits, right?
Yeah.
And there's he talks about the valley of disappointment when you're trying to learn a new skill. Man, that first month, that valley was so fucking deep for me. And there were times in the car, and I'd be like, here we go again, you know? And it gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell myself. If I could sit by myself in my car, but I'm on the passenger side looking at myself in the driver's side, I was like, oh man, get ready. It's going to get worse. Fuck, you're going to get some beatings.
Yeah.
But some good beatings. Like, no one's out there to actually hurt you.
I'll tell you, man. There's been a few fights even to sparring sessions, I really wanted to hurt the other person.
One of the biggest times I shit my pants at sparring was we were doing rotations, and you were getting closer and closer to me, and I was trying to pick and choose my opponents, and like, cool, as long as I don't get Chad. Then you're like, Marlon. I was like, fuck.
Don't worry, man. I didn't want to hurt you. But there's definitely been some people that do. But I think that there's so many things to get out of it. But it's just being in that really vulnerable position and being able to get through to the other side, face your fears, and if it doesn't go well, being able to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and run back into it, right, and go again. You know, you got to have that to make something of yourself in life. You got to be able to do that, take the knocks and keep going. Yeah.
I just want to read actually a message that you once sent to me, bro, and it's always stuck with me. And I think I sent this to you. This won't be a surprise to you. So when your son Charlie was born, I asked you, brother, how are you? And you replied, it's fucking mean, bro. I know who I am and what I'm meant to do. There's no doubt or unsure of what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to raise my son to be the best person he can be, and that's me being the best I can be. And creating a future I can pass on to him so he can make the most of the opportunities life offers him, as my dad did for me. What do you think your purpose was before Charlie? And describe the realization towards what your purpose is now. break, bro.
That's right. Man, I'm struggling with this part.
All good, brother. All good. All good.
I'm not really an emotional person, but...
Have you thought about it before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first started boxing before then, I kind of hadn't really done anything. So my dad's a bit of an old school guy. So I hadn't really done anything. We didn't have much of a relationship. But once I started boxing, I started to do stuff. Like I could see he got proud of me. He really got behind me. And he's really allowed me to do a lot of things. Just grateful, really. I don't know why I'm so upset about it. Not upset, but it's not upset actually. I'm just happy. Yeah, and it's like, now it's my turn. It's my turn to be able to do that.
Does the birth of your son give you a way deeper understanding of what your father has done for you?
Yeah.
More than before Charlie?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that really, yeah. Like, he's allowed me to do so, you know, supported me with everything I've done and allowed me to have so much opportunity. And yeah, now it's my turn and I want to be able to do that too. It's a big task. I had a really good upbringing. I had everything I needed and some, you know, like not one of those boxing guys that grew up on the street. I didn't. I grew up in a, you know, pretty, I don't know if I'd say middle class, but I had everything I needed. Every opportunity that came my way, I've been able to take advantage of because of, you know, my old man.
Is there anything that you haven't told your father that you'd like to tell him?
I've been able to tell him now. It took a while, and it's you know, it's taken a long time because you take it for granted. But no, it's good. It's been an awesome journey.
There's so much left on the table, especially when it comes to like sons needing to speak to their father.
Yeah.
Especially in our culture, being Filipino.
Yeah.
So, bro, if you had a magic wand and you could improve the New Zealand boxing industry in whichever way you wanted, how would you improve it and why?
I think that pushing the message of... actually, there's not that many people that I know. You know what? Like, not many at all. People that have got into boxing, done boxing, that are troublemakers. And like we talked about before, you really learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about facing your fears. I mean, what's scarier than like a fight? You know, like it's almost like life and death feeling, right? Almost. And to be able to go through that and come out the other side, that's a good experience to have. So I think like it'll be good for people, especially younger people, to go and do boxing, get their self-confidence, get some self-awareness, like aware of yourself, aware of your, you know, how vulnerable you are, but also what you can do and how strong you are, and build some character, you know, build some resilience. I think that's what it is, to drive that. It's not just because the nature of the sport is combat. Doesn't mean it's bad, you know. Like there's endless stories about how boxing has changed people for the better, like heaps. You know, my friend Few, he's a testament to that. How much boxing has improved him. He could have heaps to say. You should probably get him on. I feel like he'd be a good one to get. You should get him on.
Yeah.
He'll have heaps to say.
If you're listening to this,
man,
we got you.
You'll run out of tape.
brother.
You'll run out of tape. He's got heaps to say. Yeah. I think it's that, like, to look at it for the benefits that boxing has, especially for the younger generation. You know, like the teenagers when they're starting to come to that point and go, "Who am I?" You know, figuring out their identities in there. I think it would be a good thing.
And I think off the back of what you were saying earlier about having a mentor, that's what you'll also find in a boxing gym.
Absolutely.
You know, you'll find that mentor outside of your immediate family and friends.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Super important.
Like my first coach is a guy that just pat me on the back and said, "Good job," and believed in me, and just even that in itself changed my life. And you know, and I've had another coach since, and Yeah, he was like my dad, you know. Absolutely, like, your coach is like your dad, and he helps you along, and he is like a mentor, you know. I guess that's probably a big one, is finding a mentor. You need a mentor.
Agree.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah. 2 more questions before we wrap up, bro. The first one is, if people want to come find you and train at your gym, where can they find those details?
Head on my Instagram, chop.chad. Otherwise, they could go to the Foundry Boxing Club Instagram page as well. I run that, so you can find me on there too, and our gym. Yeah.
It's not just for fighters.
Not just for fighters, yeah, no, everyday people. Everyone could do boxing. Fitness, it's good for fitness. It's a challenge, and right through, if you want to be a champion and make something of yourself, yeah, the gym's for you.
I think there's something to be said about punching something as hard as you can.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's fun, man.
It's fun.
It's fun,
you
man.
You get to let out some aggression that you've been frustrated by.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no better feeling than smashing out a class and giving it your all, and
the
channeling
level of
all
like
that shit.
mental like concentration needed as well. Like, you can't really be thinking about your day. Coordination, you know, you can't be thinking about like what's just happened at work that day or whatever when you're trying to remember your combos and stuff. So
yeah. You step outside of yourself.
Get a bit of confidence. It's getting rough out there, man. You got to know something, eh? You got to know something. You got to know something. So yeah.
Yeah, I think something's got to be said about that too.
Yeah,
Whenever I
there.
feel like I'm in a frisky situation or like things are getting a little heated, I know that I can at least hold my own. I can at least hold my own. Or I'm not going to be a dog and roll over. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I might get beaten up, but at least I didn't roll over.
Yeah, I think
and that's okay for me. That's okay. As long as I'm not a coward.
Yeah, bro.
Not,
absolutely. No, it's getting rough out there, man. You hear about it every day. So you got to learn something just to be able to look after yourself if need be. If you need to, right?
If
Defense.
you need to.
Yeah, if you need to. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, like I said, fighters don't look to go at fights.
No.
You know, they don't. How many do you know?
No, none at all.
None. You don't. You don't go looking for fights.
Yeah.
If you're a fighter.
There is a great sense of humility that you get from the process.
Yeah.
Final question, bro. If you could speak to the Chad who was lost during that transition of competitive boxer to not knowing what was coming up, if you could speak to that Chad, what would you tell him?
It's hard to say because, you know, it all worked out perfect. But I'd probably say, just embrace who you are. Just embrace who you are. Like, that's what you've done. Just embrace it, man. And back yourself. Actually, when I think about my boxing, I that was the missing piece. There was parts where I didn't really back myself. I think, and in this stage of my life, that's what I've really learned, is just back yourself. You know, no matter what it is, you will make it. You'll make it work. You can do whatever you want to do if you just believe it. I think that's that.
Actually, I've got one more. If you could speak to Chad 10 years from now, what questions would you ask him?
Is it worth it? I think is probably the question I'd ask. Yeah. Was it worth it?
Ooh.
The pursuits and was it worth it? Like, you know, now that I'm on the other side, I'm a, you know, business owner and a coach. It's like it's like I've started boxing again. It's like at the start. It's like I want to go somewhere. I want to go up there, and it's going to take, from the last one, it's going to take, you know, a lot of things have to pass. Say no to a lot of things. You know, I guess you'll say sacrifice. Like I said, I enjoyed it and I preferred it, but there are things that I'm not going to be able to do or whatever. And there's going to be lots of ups and downs. Probably ask, is it worth it? Was it worth it?
Bro, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Yeah,
Chop, Chad Milnes, everybody.
Oh, man.